door that has closed in my life.
Woo!
And
Wait a minute, where's the
kind of like
tambourine?
you're talking, huh?
Going to get the tambourine. Wait, I can clap.
Oh, it's tambourine. Okay, it's tambourine. Well, I thought I was going to get the tambourine when I was talking about the Lord, but actually I'm still talking about the Lord. So you can keep your tambourine out. I am so grateful for every single door that has been shut in my life, closed, sealed, to never be reopened.
Gorilla caulked and 9-inch nails.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, hello. Yes, and they put some cement over top of that. But because, kind of like what you were talking about, and you know my story, I started a business. Mm-hmm. I stopped the business because I started doing mainstream employment and thought that that's where it was at for me.
Right.
And all along, God was like, no, that's not where it's at, but if you want to keep, spinning this wheel, knock yourself out. I've already shown you where it's at.
Right.
And I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening to what my internal voice was saying. And then in this last adventure, when that door slammed the hell shut,
yep.
And it was like, whoa, hold on. At first, I was kind of like, oh, that was jaw-dropping. But then I was like, thank you, Lord. It did take a minute because my husband and I both experienced that transitioning of going from mainstream employment to absolute self-employment around the same time. He experienced it in March, and I experienced it in May, all last year. And we came together because we are husband and wife. But even if we weren't husband and wife, I was still grateful at a certain point that it did shut, because he and I, my husband and I, his door shut in March of last year. Mine shut in May of last year, and the following day or two, he and I were already scheduled to go on a vacation. And it was our anniversary, and so we were sitting on the beach. Both out on the beach. We went to the Dominican Republic. Fantastic place. We're laying out on the beach, just sitting there, and we both just looked at each other and burst out laughing because he was like, "Who does this?" And neither one of us are employees. Who does this?
Yeah.
And we both systematically and simultaneously said, "God. God does this."
Yeah.
Because we're sitting out here. Not a care in the world, because we just bought our house in 2015. So, like you said, mortgage, other responsibilities, finance things that we need to pay, and that kind of stuff. And we're both laying out there on this beach, like not a care in the world. When we came back, we maintained that not a care in the world attitude, because we trust and know that God actually did close that door, because we didn't close the door. He closed the door because he's been trying to get us to walk in accordance to where he wants us to be, which was self-employed. And now it's not even a year later for me. It's a year now for my husband. Mm-hmm. But here we are sitting in our house, still enjoying life, still taking trips. He has his business. I have mine. I'm writing again, and I'm enjoying that whole process, and rest of the story. But the fact of the matter is that when we are in what we seem to be a low point in our lives because we lost something, we really do need to go inward and listen to that little tiny voice, not the one that's screaming, "Oh my God, the sky is falling," not that voice. Not that one, because that voice is always going to be there.
Lord, I can't pay my bills. Jesus, they gonna have me on this curb. Yep, that one.
Right. Don't listen to that one. That one's going to be there. But turn the volume down on that one.
Yeah.
And turn the other little tiny voice that you hear inside of you saying it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Have I ever let you fall, fail, or be defeated before? And the answer has always been no. If you're still breathing, you still have some substance of food, and you have a roof over your head, or you got somewhere you can sleep. If you still have the basic needs met,
you're winning.
You're winning. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say one more thing about this whole winning thing, and this goes back to probably about 4 years ago. My mom and I volunteered at a homeless shelter, and I think I told you the story, Gail, and it has never left my mind. This man, I'll make this really short, because this man who was in the homeless shelter came up to me, and I was at a place at this point where I was like, oh my God, this poor fella, he has nowhere to live. He, da. And I walked over to him with complete sympathy. Like he was just, on his last leg, and he required my sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked over to him and I started speaking to him. And this man, who seemingly had nothing, who's homeless, who had to come to this shelter to get something to eat and to shave and to bathe and that kind of stuff, this man laid on my life a true gem of, don't feel sorry for me. I still have somewhere to sleep.
Yeah.
I still have food. I have access to get some food if people are generous. And he brought up the Lord. I did not. He brought up the Lord. And I thought to myself, and again, when we start talking about religion at some point, at that point, I thought to myself, wow, he's still praising God in the midst of being homeless.
Yeah.
And at the end of the conversation, what he said to me? Thank you for listening to me.
Yeah.
And I walked away from that thinking to myself, well, I really was listening because I really was fascinated.
Yeah.
But that's what it all comes back to. We don't need to be fascinated by what someone is saying. We really just need to listen because people need to be heard. Period.
And here is a part of that. There's two parts right here from what you just said. Number one, I personally cannot stand the idea of turning someone's misery into a sport. This is why I do not watch reality shows. Someone in agony is not entertaining to me. And that whole bless your heart thing people in Texas do, when really they're not listening to you. The most that I've encountered, that comes from a place of, well, hope you get better. I don't want to know all your problems. I've got stuff to do. They're not listening at all. A bless your heart is right up there with go to hell. It really is. And if you go online and Google, most people will agree, and most of them are from Texas, and that is how it's defined. The other part...
Sorry, I thought that was yeah, we don't get that here in Arizona.
Yeah,
so
Texas all the time.
We can get the go to hell one, but not the bless your heart.
The other part is when you get to that point of, like I did the first time I lost my house, when I was just at that point of losing my mind. And I remember walking into my bathroom, my bedroom. It was like a beautiful master suite with the ensuite bathroom and the walk-in closets. And there was a skylight as you go from the bedroom into the bathroom. And it was shining beautifully. And at that moment, I realized in my mind, I wasn't going to win that. And I needed to either start packing or doing something just to prepare myself. And I walked through into the bathroom right under the skylight, and it felt as if someone hit the back of my legs. I went down. Now I'm on my knees, and I literally started screaming out, "Oh, Lord Jesus, Lord, Father, help me. I don't know what to do, God. I don't know what to do." And I laid there, and I wept so long that I fell asleep. I don't know what time I woke up, how long it took for me to pull myself back together. But when I woke up, I felt so refreshed.
Yeah.
And I just packed everything. I packed everything up, and I called some of my relatives. They were a brand new married young couple, hadn't been married maybe 2 months. They needed a few things for their home, and they came over, and I'm like, take it. And they're like, take what? I said, everything. I don't care. Take it all.
Right.
And they thought I was joking. They're like, okay, how much? I was like, no, it's yours. Whatever you need, just take it. And I packed, and I moved on and got on with my life. And apparently it did not break me, but it did. That moment more than any let me know, in my world, in my house, in my space, God is real. Because I have been single, and when I feel stuff touching me in my home, that's a problem.
Especially when you get knocked to your knees. That right there is funny.
Yeah, knocked to my knees. And that active listening part, oh, that'll catch your attention.
Oh, Jesus.
But it
Yeah.
takes
No,
time.
I think that's very funny because, and actually, you know, it's funny in the sense that we all have been knocked to our knees on some level or another,
Yes, we
right? You
have.
actually sound like you got physically knocked
Physically knocked
to your
down.
knees. Yeah, I think that's very funny because, no, I haven't felt that, you know, I have not received that type of
It's cathartic
contact.
and scary.
Okay. Okay. But no, I think that what you're saying makes perfectly good sense. And because the knocking to my knees, the lowest point, and again, not to belabor the point, but the lowest point in my life was in 2006, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 2006. And I took that as, years later now, not immediately did I take it as this, but I was knocked forget my knees, I was knocked straight onto my face. I was knocked so low down to the only way to come back up was through him, right? So I think that what you're saying makes perfectly good sense. The concern that I have is when people experience that, because if I experienced it, you've experienced it, there are plenty of other people out there that can honestly admit that they've experienced being knocked to their knees on that, you know, some way or the other. But what concerns me is that when people experience that and then they resist it and they fight against it and then they stay stuck.
Or
in
the favorite mantra from people who get stuck after they've had that experience and they're not listening or paying attention.
Right.
Ooh, child, the devil busy up in here. Devil ain't never been invited into my home.
I was like, what? The devil busy up in here.
There's always that person who resists, and they've had that cathartic experience. They've had major loss, but they're not listening. They're caught up in 100% the world because they can rattle off to you every housewife of every planet that a housewife has come from on one of them shows, but they can't get quiet. They're at a point where they just can't tone down the noise in their head long enough to go, okay, I need to actively listen. Instead of going that route, they're always blaming it on the devil. The devil working up in here. Ooh, the devil done been coming through here. Like, stop letting him in. Shoot, change the locks.
Well, I say hello. That's a whole nother conversation when we do start talking about it. But no, seriously, and I get what you're saying now. I just don't get it because when you have that moment, what you just said to me, I honestly relate it to, because when you are knocked to your knees, whether it's a physical knocking to the knees or a perceived knock to your knees, how you cry out to the Lord or cry out to God and Holy Spirit and all that. When you cry out, maybe you're not crying out, Gail. Maybe, you know what, now I'm thinking about this. Maybe when you are knocked to your knees, maybe you're just like, why? And you're just like staying down there questioning versus crying out, because I feel this, and you can agree to disagree with me. But when you're knocked to your knees and all you can do is cry out, you do find comfort and peace. I'm questioning those that are knocked to their knees and whoever they are crying out to, they still stay stuck there. Because do you have a concept of what I'm saying? That if you're crying out to God, He's automatically going to come in and He's automatically going to restore you. He just is, right? I mean, He's going to give us peace. But who are you crying out to if you get stuck? Because how do you get stuck with God? I don't get that. I don't know.